Welcome to RLP Audiobooks channel, the channel that brings forgotten books back to life in audio format, so you can listen to whenever and wherever you desire, whether you're driving, chilling, and even sleeping. Please consider subscribing to the channel and click the notifications button so you don't miss out on any other videos. Now, relax, listen, ponder, and enjoy.
Surah 26. Surah. Context. Period of revelation. The subject matter and the style show that this surah was revealed during the Middle Meccan period. According to Ibn Abbas,
a great companion of the Prophet,
Surah 20, Taha, was revealed, followed by Surah 56, Al-Waqiyah, and then Surah 26, Ash-Shura. The subject matter and topics. The background of the surah is that the disbelievers of Mecca were persistently refusing on one pretext or the other to accept the message of Islam given by the Prophet. Sometimes they would say that he did not show them any sign to convince them of his prophethood. Sometimes they would brand him as a poet or a sorcerer and mock his message, and sometimes they would ridicule his mission, saying that his followers were either a few foolish youth, or the poor people and slaves. They argued that if his mission had some real value for people, the nobles and the elders would have accepted it first. Meanwhile, the Prophet was wearied by his efforts to rationally show them the errors of their creed, and prove the truth of the doctrine of monotheism,
Tawheed,
and the hereafter. In contrast, the disbelievers were never tired of adopting various acts of stubbornness. This state of affairs was causing great anguish and grief to the Prophet. Such were the conditions when the surah was revealed. It begins with words of consolation to the Prophet, implying, "Why do you worry for their sake? If these people have not believed in you, it is not because they have not seen any sign, but because they are stubborn. They will not listen to reason. When a sign is shown in due course of time, they will themselves realize that what was being presented to them was the truth." After this introduction, till verse 191, one and the same theme has been presented continuously, and it is implied that the whole earth is abound with signs that can guide a true seeker of truth to reality. But the stubborn and misguided people have never believed, even after seeing the signs, whether these were signs of natural phenomena or miracles of the prophets. These wretched people stubbornly adhered to their false creeds till the divine punishment overtook them. It is to illustrate this that the history of many of the ancient tribes who persisted in disbelief has been told, just like the disbelievers of Mecca. In this connection, the following points have been stressed. Number 1. The signs are of two kinds. A. Natural signs in the universe, by which an intelligent person can judge for himself whether the Prophet is presenting the truth. B. Signs,
miracles,
given to the prophets to convey to their people and verify their prophethood, such as the signs seen by the people of Pharaoh, Noah, Ad, Thamud, Lot, and others. Number 2. The mentality of the disbeliever has been the same throughout the ages. Their arguments, their objections, their excuses, and ploys for not believing have been similar, and ultimately the fates that they met have also been the same. Likewise, prophets in every age presented the same teachings. Their personal character, their reasoning, and arguments were the same, and they were all similarly blessed with mercy from God Almighty. Both these patterns of behavior and conduct are found in history, and the disbelievers could see for themselves to which group they belonged. Number 3. God is Almighty, all-powerful and all-merciful at the same time. History contains instances of His wrath, as well as of His mercy. It is for the people to realize which path, and ultimately end, they are heading towards. Number 4. In conclusion, for the disbelievers, some key messages can be drawn from the stories within this surah. Point A. Why do you insist on asking for the punishment to be sent upon you, as did the doomed communities of the past? Point B. Why don't you, the disbelievers of Mecca, reflect upon the Quran which is being presented in your own language? Point C. Why don't you look at the high moral conduct of the Prophet Muhammad and his companions? Point D. Can the revelations of the Quran be the work of Satan? Point E. Does the recipient of the Quran appear to be a sorcerer? Point F. Are Muhammad and his companions like a poet and his admirers? Point G. Why don't you give up disbelief and search your hearts for the truth? Deep in your heart, you know that the revelation of the Quran has nothing in common with sorcery and poetry. So you should realize that you are being cruel and unjust, and will certainly meet the doom for such people. Surah 26. Ash-Shura.
The poets.
In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Ta. Sin. Meme.
These are among the 14 opening letters, which occur in various combinations at the beginning of 29 surahs in the Quran. Although there has been much speculation as to their meaning, it was not in fact revealed by God to anyone, and is known only to Him.
These are the verses of the clear book. Then perhaps you are going to worry yourself to death over them, that they will not become believers. If we had wished, we could have sent them down a sign from heaven, at which their necks would stay humbly submissive.
Meaning, they would be compelled to believe.
And no mention,
revelation,
comes to them anew from the Most Merciful, except that they turn away from it. For they have already denied, but there will come to them the news of that which they used to ridicule. Did they not look at the earth, how much we have produced therein, from every noble kind? Indeed, and that is a sign, but most of them were not believers. And indeed your Lord, He is the exalted in might, the merciful. And mention when your Lord called Moses, saying, Go to the wrongdoing people, the people of Pharaoh. Will they not fear God? He said, My Lord, indeed I fear that they will deny me, and that my breast will tighten, and my tongue will not be fluent, so send for Aaron. And they have upon me a claim due to sin, so I fear that they will kill me. God said, No. Go both of you with our signs, indeed we are with you, listening. Go to Pharaoh and say, We are the messengers of the Lord of the worlds.
The singular form in Arabic indicates that both were sent with a single message.
Commanded to say, Send with us the children of Israel. Pharaoh said, Did we not raise you among us as a child, and you remained among us for years of your life? And then you did your deed which you did.
Meaning, striking the Copt, who died as a result.
And you are of the ungrateful. Moses said, I did it then while I was of those astray.
Ignorant.
So I fled from you, when I feared you. Then my Lord granted me judgment,
wisdom and prophethood,
and appointed me as one of the messengers. And is this a favor of which you remind me, that you have enslaved the children of Israel? Said Pharaoh, And what is the Lord of the worlds? Moses said, The Lord of the heavens and the earth, and that between them, if you should be convinced. Pharaoh said to those around him, Do you not hear? Moses said, Your Lord and the Lord of your first forefathers. Pharaoh said,
angrily addressing those present,
Indeed your messenger who has been sent to you, is mad. Moses said, Lord of the east and the west, and that between them, if you were to reason. Pharaoh said, If you take a god other than me, I will surely place you among those imprisoned. Moses said, Even if I brought you something proof manifest? Pharaoh said, Then bring it, if you should be of the truthful. So Moses threw his staff, and suddenly it was a serpent manifest.
Meaning, clearly genuine.
And he drew out his hand, thereupon it was white for the observers. Pharaoh said to the eminent ones around him, Indeed this is a learned magician. He wants to drive you out of your land by his magic, so what do you advise? They said, Postpone the matter of him and his brother, and send among the city's gatherers, who will bring you every learned, skilled magician. So the magicians were assembled for the appointment of a well-known day.
Meaning, the morning of the day of festival. See Surah 20, Verse 50 and 59.
And it was said to the people, "Will you congregate that we might follow the magicians if they are the predominant?" And when the magicians arrived, they said to Pharaoh, "Is there definitely a reward for us if we are the winners?" He said, "Yes, and indeed, you will then be of those near to me." Moses said to them, "Throw whatever you will throw." So they threw their ropes and their staffs, and said, "By the might of Pharaoh, indeed it is we, who are the winners." Then Moses threw his staff, and at once it devoured what they falsified. So the magicians fell down in prostration to God. They said, "We have believed in the Lord of the worlds, the Lord of Moses and Aaron." Pharaoh said, "You believed him,
Moses,
before I gave you permission. Indeed he is your leader, who has taught you magic, but you are going to know. I will surely cut off your hands and your feet on opposite sides, and I will surely crucify you all." They said, "No harm. Indeed to our Lord we will return. Indeed we aspire that our Lord will forgive us our sins, because we were the first of the believers." And we inspired to Moses, "Travel by night with my servants, indeed you will be pursued." Then Pharaoh sent among the cities, gatherers,
recruiters of an army, to prevent the emigration of the children of Israel,
and said, "Indeed those are but a small band, and indeed they are enraging us. And indeed we are a cautious society. So we remove them from gardens and springs, and treasures and honorable station."
God caused them to abandon their wealth and property, in pursuit of the Israelites.
Thus, "And we caused to inherit it the children of Israel. So they pursued them at sunrise. And when the two companies saw one another, the companions of Moses said, 'Indeed we are to be overtaken.' Moses said, 'No. Indeed with me is my Lord, he will guide me.' Then we inspired to Moses, 'Strike with your staff the sea.' And it parted, and each portion was like a great towering mountain. And we advanced there to the others,
the pursuers.
And we saved Moses and those with him, all together. Then we drowned the others. Indeed and that is a sign, but most of them were not believers. And indeed your Lord, he is the exalted in might, the merciful." And recite to them the news of Abraham, when he said to his father and his people, "What do you worship?" They said, "We worship idols, and remain to them devoted." He said, "Do they hear you when you supplicate? Or do they benefit you, or do they harm?" They said, "But we found our fathers doing thus." He said, "Then do you see what you have been worshipping, you and your ancient forefathers? Indeed they are enemies to me, except the Lord of the worlds."
The people worshipped idols, in addition to God,
who created me, and he it is who guides me. And it is he, who feeds me and gives me drink. And when I am ill, it is he, who cures me and who will cause me to die, and then bring me to life, and who I aspire, that he will forgive me my sin on the day of recompense. And he said, "My Lord, grant me authority and join me with the righteous, and grant me a mention,
reputation,
of honor among later generations, and place me among the inheritors of the garden of pleasure, and forgive my father. Indeed he has been of those astray. And do not disgrace me on the day they are all resurrected, the day when there will not benefit anyone, wealth or children, but only one who comes to God with a sound heart. And paradise will be brought near that day, to the righteous. And hellfire will be brought forth for the deviators, and it will be said to them, 'Where are those you used to worship other than God? Can they help you, or help themselves?' So they will be overturned into it."
Hellfire.
They and the deviators and the soldiers of Iblis, all together. They will say while they dispute therein, "By God, we were indeed in manifest error, when we acquainted you with the Lord of the worlds. And no one misguided us except the criminals. So now we have no intercessors, and not a devoted friend. Then if we only had a return to the world, and could be of the believers."
The conclusion of this verse is estimated as, "We would do this or that."
Indeed and that is a sign, but most of them are not believers. And indeed your Lord, he is the exalted in might, the merciful. The people of Noah denied the messengers.
Their denial of Noah was as if they had denied all those who brought the same message from God.
When their brother Noah said to them, "Will you not fear God? Indeed I am to you a trustworthy messenger. So fear God and obey me. And I do not ask you for it any payment. My payment is only from the Lord of the worlds. So fear God and obey me." They said, "Should we believe you, while you are followed by the lowest class of people?" He said, "And what is my knowledge of what they used to do? Their account is only upon my Lord, if you could perceive. And I am not one to drive away the believers. I am only a clear warner." They said, "If you do not desist, O Noah, you will surely be of those who are stoned." He said, "My Lord, indeed my people have denied me. Then judge between me and them, with decisive judgment, and save me, and those with me of the believers." So we saved him, and those with him, in the laden ship. Then we drowned thereafter the remaining ones. Indeed, and that is a sign, but most of them were not believers. And indeed your Lord, He is the exalted in might, the merciful. Ad denied the messengers when their brother, Hud, said to them, "Will you not fear God? Indeed I am to you a trustworthy messenger. So fear God and obey me. And I do not ask you for it any payment. My payment is only from the Lord of the worlds. Do you construct on every elevation a sign, amusing yourselves, and take for yourselves constructions, places and fortresses that you might abide eternally?"
Sign, meaning a symbol or indication of their wealth and power. They used to build lofty structures along the road, to be seen by all those who passed by.
And when you strike as tyrants. So fear God and obey me. And fear He, who provided you with that which you know, provided you with grazing livestock and children, and gardens and springs. Indeed I fear for you the punishment of a terrible day. They said, "It is all the same to us, whether you advise, or are not of the advisers. This is not but the custom of the former peoples, and we are not to be punished." And they denied him, so we destroyed them. Indeed, and that is a sign, but most of them were not believers. And indeed your Lord, He is the exalted in might, the merciful. Thamud denied the messengers, when their brother Salih said to them, "Will you not fear God? Indeed I am to you a trustworthy messenger. So fear God and obey me. And I do not ask you for it any payment. My payment is only from the Lord of the worlds. Will you be left in what is here, secure
from death,
within gardens and springs, and fields of crops and palm trees, with softened fruit? And you carve out of the mountains
homes
with skill. So fear God and obey me. And do not obey the order of the transgressors, who cause corruption in the land, and do not amend." They said, "You are only of those affected by magic. You are but a man like ourselves, so bring a sign, if you should be of the truthful." He said, "This is a she-camel,
miraculously sent to them as a sign by God.
For her is a time of drink, and for you is a time of drink, each on an own day. And do not touch her with harm, lest you be seized by the punishment of a terrible day." But they hamstrung her, and so became regretful. And the punishment seized them. Indeed, and that is a sign, but most of them were not believers. And indeed your Lord, He is the exalted in might, the merciful. The people of Lot denied the messengers, when their brother Lot said to them, "Will you not fear God? Indeed I am to you a trustworthy messenger. So fear God and obey me. And I do not ask you for it any payment. My payment is only from the Lord of the worlds. Do you approach males out of everyone?"
Meaning, are there out of all God's creatures, any besides you, who commit this unnatural act?
"And leave what your Lord has created for you, as mates? But you are people transgressing." They said, "If you do not desist to Lot, you will surely be of those evicted." He said, "Indeed I am toward your deed, of those who detest it. My Lord, save me and my family, from the consequence of what they do." So we saved him and his family, all, except an old woman.
Lot's wife, who had collaborated with the evildoers.
Among those who remained behind, then we destroyed the others. And we rained upon them a rain of stones, and evil was the rain of those who were warned. Indeed, and that is a sign, but most of them were not believers. And indeed your Lord, He is the exalted in might, the merciful. The companions of the thicket,
the people of Madian,
denied the messengers, when Shuaib said to them, "Will you not fear God? Indeed I am to you a trustworthy messenger. So fear God and obey me. And I do not ask you for it any payment. My payment is only from the Lord of the worlds. Give full measure, and do not be of those who cause loss. And weigh with an even,
honest
balance. And do not deprive people of their due, and do not commit abuse on earth, spreading corruption. And fear He, who created you in the former creation."
Meaning, previous generations.
They said, "You are only of those affected by magic. You are but a man like ourselves, and indeed we think you are among the liars. So cause to fall upon us fragments of the sky, if you should be of the truthful." He said, "My Lord is most knowing of what you do." And they denied Him, so the punishment of the day of the black cloud seized them. Indeed it was the punishment of a terrible day. Indeed, and that is a sign, but most of them were not believers. And indeed your Lord, He is the exalted in might, the merciful. And indeed it,
the Quran,
is the revelation of the Lord of the worlds. The trustworthy Spirit,
Gabriel,
has brought it down upon your heart, O Muhammad, that you may be of the warners, in a clear Arabic language. And indeed it is mentioned in the scriptures of former peoples. And has it not been a sign to them, that it is recognized by the scholars of the children of Israel? And even if we had revealed it, to one among the foreigners,
meaning, the non-Arabs, or those who are not fluent in the Arabic language,
and he had recited it to them perfectly,
as a miracle from God,
they would still not have been believers in it. Thus have we inserted it,
disbelief,
into the hearts of the criminals. They will not believe in it, until they see the painful punishment. And it will come to them suddenly, while they perceive it not. And they will say, "May we be reprieved?" So for our punishment they are trying to hasten? Then have you considered, if we gave them enjoyment for years, and then there came to them that which they were promised? They would not be availed by the enjoyment, with which they were provided. And we did not destroy any city except that it had warners, as a reminder, and never have we been unjust. And the devils have not brought it,
the revelation,
down,
as was asserted by the disbelievers. Rather, it was brought by Gabriel, the trustworthy Spirit.
It is not allowable for them, nor would they be able. Indeed they from its hearing, are removed.
As mentioned in Surah 72, verse 9.
So do not invoke with God another deity, and thus be among the punished. And warn, O Muhammad, your closest kindred. And lower your wing.
Show kindness
to those who follow you of the believers. And if they disobey you, then say, "Indeed I am disassociated from what you are doing." And rely upon the exalted in might, the merciful, who sees you when you arise
from your bed at night, for prayer while you are alone,
and your movement among those who prostrate,
among those who pray with you, in congregation.
Indeed He is the hearing, the knowing. Shall I inform you upon whom the devils descend? They descend upon every sinful liar. They pass on what is heard.
This was before they were prevented, as described in Surah 72, verse 8 and 9.
And most of them are liars. And the poets, only the deviators follow them. Do you not see, that in every valley they roam,
speaking lies indiscriminately, and praising and disparaging others, according to whim?
And that they say, what they do not do. Except those poets who believe and do righteous deeds, and remember God often, and defend themselves,
by replying through poetry, to the attacks of hostile poets,
after they were wronged. And those who have wronged, are going to know to what kind of return they will be returned.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed listening to this book, please give it a like, and consider subscribing to the channel, and click the notifications button, so you don't miss out on any other videos.